This has been one of the craziest college football off seasons of all time. There's been coaches that have been switching schools, the transfer portal has been the busiest it's ever been, and college football as a whole looks to be changing for better or worse. One of the biggest storylines this off season was Lincoln Riley going from Oklahoma to USC. Another big storyline was Oklahoma quarterback Caleb Williams also going from Oklahoma to USC. Now, all off season, Lincoln Riley has been taking full advantage of the transfer portal, but Lincoln Riley apparently isn't really a fan of the transfer portal and had some pretty interesting things to say about it. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are you love college football, and odds are you likely aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to join the best college football community here on YouTube. Also, if you could take a second and drop a like on this video, I would greatly appreciate it as well. It really helps the algorithm of the video and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, USC has been very active in the transfer portal this offseason. According to 24/7 Sports, USC currently has the #1 transfer rankings team score, just ahead of Ole Miss. Now, although Ole Miss is right behind them, USC has a pretty large lead to the next closest teams. And that's largely due to Lincoln Riley being the new head coach of the Trojans. So although Lincoln Riley has been using the transfer portal to his advantage, he apparently isn't the biggest fan of it. No, seriously, when he was interviewed on ESPN the other day, he talked about the transfer portal and how he thinks there needs to be guidelines for it.
Like a big picture question about the transfer portal itself. A lot of talk about how, hey, this is good for the players, they get to find a better opportunity. Good for the coaches, they get to turn around a roster a little more quickly. There's a lot of conjecture and conversation about, is it good for college football? What changes would you make to the transfer portal?
Yeah, it's a big question. Obviously it's changed, really the way that college football operates. And I think at some point we'll have to put in some guardrails, some ways to kind of ensure when this can happen, when it can't happen, so that players, staffs, all that are a little bit more on the same page. Right now it's so open-ended that it's, I think, difficult. I think it's difficult for players, difficult for coaches, difficult to build rosters. You try to project to the future, and then I think kind of the ill effects of that when you start looking down at the high school athlete and how many of these scholarships are actually going to players in high school is concerning. And so I think so much has changed, and there's a lot of really good people, smart people in college football that care about this sport. And I think a lot of those people need to get together as we have a chance to assess all that's happened. And I think we can put together a plan that gives everybody the flexibility that they want, but also maintains kind of the integrity of building a roster and being able to use all the different channels to do that in a positive way.
So there you have it. According to Lincoln Riley, there needs to be a guardrail in regards to the transfer portal moving forward. Now, this is a pretty interesting comment coming from the guy that essentially took Oklahoma's best talent and brought it over to USC. Not to mention all of the other great players that have transferred over this offseason. Now, it would be totally understandable if these quotes came from any other coach in the entire country. There have been a number of coaches that have voiced their displeasure with the transfer portal, mainly because it hasn't benefited them. Although Clemson is one of the best teams in all of college football on a year-to-year basis, Dabo Swinney has voiced his frustration numerous times with the transfer portal and clearly isn't a fan of it. Now, that's totally okay for him to say because Dabo Swinney isn't doing the kind of moves in the transfer portal that Lincoln Riley's doing. I mean, seriously, when you look at some of the best players that have been in the portal this offseason, USC has nabbed a bunch of them, and Lincoln Riley is saying there needs to be new rules in place to prevent it. Now, I have zero problem with what Lincoln Riley's been doing at USC. Ultimately, it's the players making the decision, not Lincoln Riley. And these players have the ability to go anywhere they want, so you can't really fault them for that. But again, to come out on ESPN and talk about how there needs to be a guardrail in order to prevent this, I just think it's a little fishy coming from Lincoln Riley. Immediately after this interview went live, there was a lot of backlash surrounding Lincoln Riley. I'll start with this article from Heartland College Sports, which covers the Big 12. Really, Lincoln? You just poached the top player in the country, a 5-star wide receiver, a 4-star cornerback, and an entire defensive staff from the university that made you a millionaire and one of the top coaches in America. Do you even hear yourself when you speak, or are those gold-plated AirPods that you're wearing noise canceling? The hypocrisy that Riley displays in this interview further exemplifies his lack of integrity when it comes to career moves. Sure, you can take all the parts of a team that you like with you to your next gig, but should you? You don't see 5-star players on Clemson's roster following Brent Venables to Oklahoma. Why? Because he has integrity. He gives a damn about the university that made him the highest paid coordinator in the country. Venables wouldn't spit in the face of a legend that handed him the keys to one of the most prestigious programs in the country and forced him out of retirement to clean up a mess that he didn't make. Lincoln Riley has shown his true colors over the past 2 months, and he sure as hell had me and pretty much everyone else fooled for 5 years. The aw shucks humble West Texas act was Oscar-worthy in hindsight. Now, it makes sense that he would want to be in LA, and I say more power to him. He belongs there, right alongside the Kardashians, the Real Housewives, and the rest of the fakers scattered across SoCal. Sure, he's good for television ratings, but he's not someone I would call a role model for other aspiring college coaches. And it just doesn't stop there. This tweet actually came from Longhorn Republic, who is Oklahoma's biggest rival. You left Oklahoma 17 days before early signing day, flipped a large number of committed players, and took the star transfer quarterback with you after you waited damn near a month to announce just a day before National Signing Day. Could you be any more of a disingenuous hack? This may be the only time we actually see anything Texas related taking the side of Oklahoma. Sooner Recruiting said he really used the word integrity in this. Didn't know that was in his vocabulary. I will give it to him though, the ability to go live on television and say there needs to be restrictions after freely rating the Oklahoma roster this offseason is remarkable. At this point, you honestly gotta respect the man's thoroughly blithe devotion to being the biggest hypocrite in college football. Michael Schur couldn't script it any better. Oklahoma football tweeted the best home field advantage in college football, citing that they have 140 consecutive sellouts, which is the second longest streak in the country. Well, Frosty Clovis said that'd be 141 consecutive sellouts if you count Lincoln Riley. From college football nerds, they said what Lincoln Riley has done to the employer that not only made him a millionaire, but also provided him a platform that cultivated his success is disgraceful. There's a stark difference between things we do and things we should do, and the difference is integrity. There are hundreds of more tweets that I can include, but I think I'll wrap it up with one that pretty much summarizes how every Oklahoma fan is currently feeling. Yeah, I think Barstool pretty much knocked this one out of the park. So yeah, over the last few months, Lincoln Riley has slowly turned himself into one of the most hated coaches in all of college football. Now, I wanted to dig this up because I'm sure a lot of Oklahoma fans remember this, but in case you didn't follow along with the story last year, here's something that'll refresh your memory. Last season, Chandler Morris, who was a quarterback for the Sooners, wanted to transfer to TCU, but there was a holdup and Morris wasn't being released by Oklahoma. And that's because Lincoln Riley didn't want his quarterback transferring to another program within the conference. And here's what he had to say during a Zoom meeting with reporters last year. This particular situation for us is about something that we believe in. Myself, the leadership here at Oklahoma, we think it's unhealthy for college football to encourage intra-conference transfers. That's something that we've been adamantly opposed to for a long time. I get the landscape is changing. We've certainly watched that, and we will adapt as the world changes. But this has nothing to do with that or the person. Chandler Morris did a tremendous job here. He's a terrific young man. Now, this is ironic because Baker Mayfield transferred to Oklahoma after being at Texas Tech. Now, granted, this was before Lincoln Riley arrived, but come on, you had a Heisman-winning quarterback that transferred from another Big 12 school, and you got a problem with this. Now again, I know this situation isn't entirely identical to the Caleb Williams one because he's going from Oklahoma to USC, but still, Lincoln Riley clearly wasn't a fan of players transferring to other schools when it didn't benefit him. Overall, I just don't understand what Lincoln Riley was trying to get at with these comments, and I really think that he's oblivious to what's currently going on in college football. Because of the transfer portal, USC has really flipped around this program, and they're going to be competing for a Pac-12 championship next season. I mean, for those of you that followed USC this past season, they were awful. I mean, this was a really bad team, and they likely would have been a pretty bad team in 2022. Now, I still think they would have been competing for a bowl game, and they probably would have won 7 or 8 games. But because of the transfer portal and what Lincoln Riley has done with it, this is a USC team that, like I said, might be competing for a Pac-12 championship. And that's largely due to the access of the transfer portal. So for Lincoln Riley to come out and say there needs to be some sort of guideline for the transfer portal after, again, having the #1 transfer class of the offseason, it's just pretty stupid in my opinion. So what are your thoughts on what Lincoln Riley said, and what are your thoughts on what USC has done with the transfer portal? Again, I know a lot of people have different thoughts in regards to how the transfer portal is changing college football, so whatever your thoughts are on everything that's been going down, let me know in the comment section down below. Also, if there are any Oklahoma fans out there, feel free to let me know in the comments down below just how hated Lincoln Riley has become in Norman, because from what I've seen on social media, it is not pretty at all. If you guys haven't done so yet, now is still the perfect time to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're brand new to my channel. If you love college football, then this is definitely the place for you. Oh, and don't forget to drop a like on this video before you go as well. It really does help with that YouTube algorithm, and it helps share the video with more college football fans. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you all in my next video.